Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, viewers, and welcome once more to a scene of Requiem for London. This night, a few nights earlier than when one Nor Hillington emerged from the place no one goes in Green Park, but after Mickey Reed vanished with his new patron, as it were. The Treadwell's bookshop sits almost empty as the owner's assistant begins tidying up for the night. As he puts the closed sign in the door window, and he begins to make sure that any books that were lying around on any of the tables are put back into their proper place, he will eye outside of the windows ever so subtly. He will notice several individuals in cars just sort of scouting the place. It's been a while, but he reckons perhaps three, four, maybe even five. He gets nervous. His master should be made aware of this, but he knows that to give his hand away now would prove dangerous should these individuals intend harm, and so he continues around the bookshop, maybe a little bit faster now, but he has been trained to make it not noticeable. And with all of the books put away, a smile crosses his face as he looks satisfied at the shop, his pride and joy, all tidy and ready for another day of business. He turns off the light and retreats down into his master's study. As soon as he's out of the way of the windows, he picks up speed, though. He knocks hurriedly to indicate that not all is right.
I would describe that Graves has currently been quiet the past few nights. He's been remained in his study and more cut away, more cut off than usual. And he spends most of his time just sitting in the room with this dear Jessica Grace, this naked female form on this table in his study. Half burnt, half melting away with this stake in her heart. And Graves seems to be speaking to her every now and then, knowing she is aware of every word he says. And I'd say, during a moment of contemplation, suddenly he hears this knocking, and as he speaks to allow the individual in, he sees his assistant coming quite in a slight bit of panic, and he seems to describe the events outside, the strangers sitting in their cars, and Graves, being quite paranoid individual, instantly reacts and is upset that he's got himself too lost, too obsessed with this Jessica, that he has given himself a lapse in protecting his haven, and suddenly his senses will come alert. He will try to feel out his haven, to detect any intruders inside the building and outside, as his auspex heightens his senses even more.
This is going to be a contested roll. In
Yeah.
this case, Dietrich Graves' auspex rating plus his blood potency
Okay.
against 9 dice. Also, please add Dietrich's dots in Haven as well.
He does have quite a few dots, so I'm going to say 3 plus 4, and then Haven, he has a lot of dots in Haven, so it's going to be another 4. He's going to be rolling 11 dice. So I'll roll Graves first. Just a 3. That's an extra one. Okay, just 3 successes for Graves.
And
And
for the 9.
it is 9. Oh, just the 1, unfortunately.
Then again, this is a very stressful time for the Kindred of London. Dietrich Graves notices as right before his assistant closes the door, as though a brush of a cloak. The air ripples around. A face appears. A face he's familiar with, but a face that is normally obscured by a mask, a pale white mask with a black handprint. A face that he has not seen in a long time. And from this mirage, the face of Lucas Bright, otherwise known as the Black Hand, the Hand of the Prince, emerges in the darkness, the dim glow of this sanctum of Mr. Graves. He just raises a finger to his lips and looks at Mr. Graves's loyal servant. He has not yet allowed his obfuscation to be sensed by the mortal in the room, although he does look tired, and as he looks over Jessica, he does look sad.
Graves will see this figure, a figure he's not seen for quite some time. And he, though still quite cautious and paranoid, is calmer. He realizes who it is, and he'll gesture, he'll actually look quite, pause for a moment, and his assistant will immediately kind of reach for something in his pocket as he's seen this look from Graves before. But then Graves will turn to him and just hold his hand up and say, leave us, or leave me, sorry, he would say. And the assistant, without even thinking about it, just will immediately obey his master, and then proceed to slowly leave the room and attend to certain other duties upstairs. But again, he'll always be quite cautious, and he'll probably give a look to the men outside in case they do try to intrude on him. And then Graves will just look to the old friend of his and slightly, it's just very softly sit back down, fold his arms, and just go, oh, you are getting rusty, my old friend. I remember a time when I could never spot you.
The sheriff will smile, and he'll take a step forward, and even though he had been silent before, the noise of his steel-toed shoes will sound as he takes a step forward. He will just look over Jessica again. You can fully see that his obfuscation has dropped fully. As he looks at Dietrich now and says, is it true, Dietrich? Was Jessica the one who created the Revenants?
Graves will look quite sad, and he'll gaze over Jessica. And give me a perception empathy, a wits empathy, I guess.
All right, that's going to be...
And I'm going to roll performance for him, actually.
It's going to be 7 dice for the sheriff.
Okay, I just roll your 7. No successes there.
He really is having a bad night.
He really is.
But then again, this is a very emotional moment for him.
This is a very emotional. I'm just going to, it's persuasion he'd be doing. So it'd be manipulation, persuasion, I guess. I think, hold on. Yeah, he's not lying directly. He's just trying to give off an emotion. So, no, he fails though. So I'll describe it that he looks over Jessica and he seems to give this very concerned look, this look of a sibling worried for his other. But there's a hint of something there, hint of something else. You can't quite tell. Is it contempt, anger, displeasure? sorrow. It's all a bit confusing. It's a very powerful moment for both of you, so you're still unsure. But then Graves will look over the Jessica and go, I must unfortunately report that, yeah, she is the one responsible for our reverent outbreak.
As he will look around the room, he will ask, "Is it only the three of us here?"
Oh no, the assistant has gone. He's gone upstairs.
Oh no, he's speaking about others that might
Oh, I see. Sorry. Yes.
try.
No. He'll look around the room. Funny enough, again using his Allspecs, but because as far as I am aware, yes, it is just us three.
Your eyes have grown strong, Dietrich. It's good to hear. I would wish to speak to you alone, though. As you look down at Jessica and frown and say, "I am sorry, dear sister, but there is nothing I can do more for you at this point." And you look to Dietrich.
Come, there's a place we can talk privately. A place very secure. And he will gesture to the back of the room where he'll go to a wooden door, and this very large, kind of epic wooden door that you have been aware of. You have seen this door before, but you've never been behind it. It's very secured. It's an old wooden door which has all these kind of carvings on it of this epic tale of Adam and Eve being cast out from the Garden of Eden and Satan's fall from heaven. And it's very well carved, very well made. And you see Graves open this door, but you don't see a door handle. You don't see anything that seems to be a way to open. And he gestures for you to come in. And as you come into this room, it's a very, very dark room. There are no lights in this room, but your kindred senses will pick up. And you'll see it's a room full of relics and items and things that have been very securely nailed down and in very secure cabinets. You'll say, yeah, I've never shown you my private collection now.
I am honored. If this was not an official visit, I would very much like to learn more about your collection. It is quite extensive as he looks over the items that are in this sealed room.
I usually only show those of our order this room, only those who are sworn or shown great merit, but you are a sheriff of this city. I've known you long enough to trust you.
The sheriff will smile, and as Dietrich, I assume, closes the door behind them, he will turn and say, "Do you know how she was able to create multiple revenants?" From my research and the research of our elders, there have been very few instances of kindred being able to create these mockeries, as it were.
Graves pauses for a lot of time. He's thinking quite heavily. And then his gaze will turn to one of the items that is secured in a room.
The sheriff will turn and meet where his gaze is centered.
I'm going to say give me wits and investigate, I guess, if you're trying to work out. Or maybe empathy.
Let's see. Oh, he's got a lot of wits plus investigate, so I'll go with the lower
Yeah,
one.
it
7 dice.
yeah, you should be able to work this out, and Graves is not. Yeah, Graves is, yeah, you're fine. Graves' attention seems to be drawn to the skull that seems to be very securely placed at the end of this room. Again, it's very darkly lit. There's no light in this room. But his gaze turns to a skull, which is at the very back of the room, and it's in a very secured cabinet made of steel and bars, and it has several kind of locks on it. Some of them digital, some of them not digital, some of them quite old-fashioned looking locks. But then he'll quickly gaze back at you and just simply say, Jessica was aware of a certain forbidden ritual, a way to summon reverence, a practice our order forbids, of course, for obvious reasons. The fact that she used such a ritual condemns her in the eyes of the order and is warrant for final death.
I would have assumed as much. I am not familiar with your order's customs, but I do know that they keep their own house, and have not been a trouble to the princedom in many a year. However, this situation is now beyond the order. Are you aware that there is still a revenant out there? And yes, I am aware of who took the one known as Mickey Reed. You can stop worrying about the ones that are outside watching. They are my hounds, and have been keeping an eye on the place ever since we were able to figure out that he left what is potentially the scene of a masquerade breach, but not one of his own making, and coming here to Treadwell's.
I hope I was not out of line in dealing with this situation. I did what was best for the kindred community. I believed it would be helpful for this individual to either embrace himself amongst us or be destroyed.
It is true. You showed wisdom, brother, but I could have thought of several better options for a sire than that individual.
Let us say this particular Mickey character will cause much trouble for his sire. Believe me, I do not think I've done him any favors by handing Mickey to him.
Still, if he was able to elude the order and the hounds before going into a car that's license plates were recorded, he does show some promise. It would have been better if you contacted me first, but this is a very stressful time. I will not hold it against you. But there is one more revenant out there. Not only that, I know that it's now in the custody of the Lancaet Sanctum.
I must admit I was not aware of any others loose in the city. This is an issue that I believe you must address yourself. The Ordo and the Sanctum do not see quite eye to eye.
If the Sanctified learn that your order has this ability, I do not know what they will do, but it could lead again to open hostilities between your two organizations, and that cannot be allowed in the Prince's city.
As I said, this ritual is forbidden in our order under the penalty of final death. And this is a shame that Jessica felt the need to permit or to commence this ritual. I'm still unsure as to why, but you will not get any answers out of her. Her beast is fully awakened and taken control. She has lost herself to it.
That is the greatest tragedy of these events. I am sorry. I knew she was your blood sibling. Anyone of Clan Meket who falls is a loss to us all.
'Tis a great shame. She was a very accomplished individual. She is a loss to the order. But there are certain things that have occurred while she was commencing these rituals and people she employed, but the order of the axe are attending to it and resolving it. They have sent Bon von Black on the task. I hope this reassures you, yeah?
Bob. I'm aware of a Robert. Is that the same individual?
He is the Order of the Axe chief enforcer.
So he's an assassin then. I will not hold it against you. As I said before, what your order does with its own is your right under the prince's edicts. Just let it be known that any kindred who are put to final death must first be passed through me, and by doing so, the prince.
I will have to discuss this with others in the order, but yes, it has been the tradition. I assume you'll make an exception in this case. It is extraordinary circumstance. But
it is, like I said, worse than we thought. If this was just the creation of these revenants, then it would not be a problem, but that other revenant, the one in the sanctified custody, it was captured several nights ago by an associate of mine and an ally she made recently. Several, maybe. He was mistransported, and thanks to a power outage, the Carthians were able to discover that he was being kept within their own domain. He was captured, and now the one who is responsible for this is quite angry that that happened. I must deliver Jessica Graves to him. She is the one who created the revenants. Therefore, she is the one who is responsible for this humiliation.
I have heard that the Carthians were acting out recently about their territory. I just assumed it was another spat, another paranoid vision of theirs, but you speak of an individual above yourself that seeks Jessica? This is intriguing.
The sheriff looks at you very frankly and just says, the one who they insulted was Michael May.
Yeah, as soon as you say that, Graves' face turns from kind of a jokey smile to a very drawn and then serious look, and he'll raise a hand to his lips to kind of cover his reaction and just go, and then he'll speak some words in German, a few profanities in his phrases, and he just goes, "Oh, Jessica, what have you done?" I did not know that the crimes were that serious if Mays is involved.
It seems that Jessica turned one of his cronies. That is how he was able to secure the transfer from my custody to his. He pulled a lot of strings to get that done.
No. Very well, I will not contest your right to Jessica, but no, under the Ordo Draco, her punishment would be final death. I hope Mays has a similar idea in mind. If she is to allowed to walk free, well, there will be consequences to that.
I have a lot of eyes around the city, Dietrich. Whatever Michael Mays has in store for her, by the end of it, whatever is left of her would wish for final death or complete oblivion to the beast.
Oh, give me. Actually, you don't even need to roll for that. Grace smiles at that. He lets off a little smile as you say, like, yeah, she wishes for final death for what Maze will do. But then he'll quickly drop it and sort of go, whatever the Invictus wish, the Ordo Draco will assist, as always.
Is there a parking garage on the back of this store, a way for us to transfer Jessica out under the cover of moving books for a delivery order?
Yes, I will get my assistant to place her in one of our containers, and you may attend to the alleyway behind the shop. My assistant will carry her to, or we'll carry her to your vehicle. It will seem above board. I will make it an obvious show of books.
Good. I will contact the Seneschal's men. She has the monopoly on transport. That, and it will be a good show of faith to have the Invictus houses working together to ensure that no one insults the Invictus without there being consequences. I think in this regard everyone will win. Am I not correct?
Yeah, you are, as always, correct. May I say my final farewells?
I see no reason why not.
Graves will walk towards the door, and again you see him. He always goes back quite heavily guarded. It seems he's fiddling with something quite small, but the door will suddenly unlock. You hear lots of locks unlocking. It seems to be a clockwork kind of mechanism with this door. And they will open, and Graves will gesture for you to exit, and then he'll close the door behind you. And the half-burnt corpse of Jessica Grace is on the table in front of you, and he will slowly walk over to her and gaze at her from her head. He'll be sort of looking down at her, and you see him smiling quite deeply at her, and then he's going to lean in and whisper something to her. And I guess the sheriff could overhear if he's actively trying.
Oh yes, he'll try. That would be wits plus composure.
Yeah, I'll just do a standard roll. I don't think.
That'll be 7.
Oh, just the one. And then you'll hear, so Grace will slowly just leaning next to her and whisper into her ear and say, "This is what happens when you oppose me. Goodbye, Jessica." And with that, he'll sort of cover her up with a blanket and then proceed to gesture for you to sort of leave, I guess.
He will nod, and then he will exit. Although he will put a pin in that. That deserves further investigation. But he is aware that Dietrich may be his closest ally against their mutual enemy these following nights. But how much will he have to overlook his friend's activities against his duty to uphold justice in the city? But nonetheless, he will continue out the door. He will obfuscate himself again.
Yeah, Graves will do his normal routine with assistant, asking for a crate and a body, and he won't even do it delicately. He'll kind of throw her in this crate and seal it up. And the crate will have the usual signs of Treadwell books, shipment, cargo, fragile, this way up. And he'll inform his assistant to leave the back way of the shop and go through the alleyway till he sees the appropriate people or cars to give the package to.
And unseen by the assistant, the sheriff will slip out. When he opens the door, he'll make some appropriate text messages to his hounds and then to the individuals who will be performing the transport. And within a few hours, more lorries will come carrying boxes, and the transfer will be made. And the fate of Jessica Graves will be in the hand of the sheriff, but ultimately in the hands of one Michael Names. And this is where we will end our scene. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful evening.